Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Bear Guys and 2AT Fitness. The Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language. 'Cause we learned it from you, Dad. Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel podcast. This is the 1993 Single Sequels edition. My name is Michael Shantz of the How Dare You Awards. Joining me, you know who he is, friends, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Hello, Tom.
I feel like I'm in a John Hughes Rite de Passage movie. Now, I have a question up front. What is the obsession in early 90s spoof comedies with foreign art cinema? Because this is the third out of 3 jokes related to foreign cinema in these kinds of movies.
Right.
That we've seen. Naked Gun 2.5 begins with Unfilmed D. Hot Shots Part 2. That joke's even in the title. And here we have, in Wayne's World 2, we have Mike Myers saying Rite de Passage. So, was Hollywood concerned that foreign, particularly French cinema, was going to overtake
take
the
over?
industry between 1990 and 1995? I mean, I remember Cyrano de Bergerac being, put in the normal section of my local video store.
Yeah, right.
But beyond that... I don't remember a feeling of we're all going to be watching foreign movies for the rest of our existence. But
yeah, I'm with you. But I had, like you, I mean, there seemed to be, especially in Wayne's World 2 and Hot Shots, there were callbacks to other movies we'd seen,
yes.
Similar jokes, I mean, part of that is maybe the Abrahams of it all, but in one of them, but...
It's kind of eerie, though, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's so much that we've talked about, both in terms of sequels and specific movies, came up in this little pocket of a series.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we should tell people we are doing the 1993 single sequels,
Yeah.
which we are including Wayne's World 2,
Yes.
Hot Shots, Part 2, and then we're doing, God help us, Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Now, for the purposes of this episode...
And in addition, we're retrofitting Another Stakeout in there.
Correct.
A movie we've already done. You can listen back to that episode. You can listen back.
Maybe we'll redrop it for them to listen to.
That's right, yeah.
And then there are 2 movies we are not including.
Oh, yeah, good point.
That
we're in contention.
That we're in contention, which is 5 single sequels. Maybe, kind of, sort
I'm
of.
grateful we're not doing them.
But we're not counting them because one of them is Addams Family, and there was a direct-to-video sequel starring none of the same actors. And
none of the same.
I assume Barry Sonnenfeld did not come back for that one.
No. Yes.
And likewise, Sister Act 2 is currently, as we speak, a single sequel, but Disney Plus is coming out with, so long as they didn't fire Whoopi Goldberg.
I was going to say, if Whoopi Goldberg keeps talking about the Holocaust on live TV, this movie may never happen, but as it stands...
So, and I don't know where that production is, if they were in production, if they're past production, if they haven't started yet. But all I know is there is a planned 3rd sequel, or 3rd movie in the series, to the Sister Act movies.
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg, she's rebooting all of her early 90s roles.
Right.
She's just done Picard as Guinan.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's going back into Sister Acts. I think we're going to get a Ghost 2 before too long.
I was just going to say that...
Ghosts! I think... I mean... It's got to be Ghosts, right? Or maybe like you, Ghosts 2. Like Trolls 2.
There you go.
And speaking of Trolls 2,
Mm-hmm.
We did this with our 1990 sequels as well. We expanded from Another 48 Hours, which was a 1990 single sequel.
Correct.
And we evaluated it against all the other
Right.
1990 single sequels. So
So
that's
now we've
the
put we're going to put the what we deemed early on as the Another sequels
yeah.
as its own category. We're repurposing them where they belong.
Right, we're put it, and it's always great to look at a year in isolation,
Mm-hmm.
and to and then to kind of retrofit a movie we've already done into that, have some historical perspective on that. But what I'm most excited about is with this kind of project is to sort of see what the norms of sequels were at a given point in history.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And this is absolutely fascinating to me. Because there's an even split between meta sequels and gratuitous cash grab sequels.
Yes.
So and those are polar. When it comes to self-awareness, those are polar opposites.
Right.
Like meta sequels, they know their place in the industry and world as sequels. And the cash grab sequels have no idea
right.
that they are extending the franchise beyond a finite point of storytelling that it does not need to be extended beyond.
Once you start adding voodoo.
I'm gonna keep my cards close to my chest, but I cannot wait to talk about voodoo. I think we should do a whole separate episode on
just
on
voodoo
in sequels we've seen.
Right. That's great.
When you're going with an abandoned storyline from Halloween 5, something's gone wrong. When you're running with a story that even the makers of Halloween 5 thought was a bad idea.
No, let's not. Oh, I can't remember. I hope that Halloween 5 didn't include Michael Myers only moves to music.
Well, you've got to tweak it, or it's not comedy.
Right.
It's a zomcom. Remember, it's not a zom. It's a zomcom.
Zomcom.
And it got there decades before Shaun of the Dead.
Let's you and I. You're right. Shaun of the Dead. They were there first. I was gonna say let's just start a bunch of Zomcom movies. But there was another one too, where something about something heart, something about a zombie boy who good on the inside or something like that was trying to fall in love. Warm Bodies. Warm Bodies.
Okay.
I think
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure voodoo figures in one of the last summer movies we watched as well.
Does it?
In the first of those sequels with
in the
Bill
second
Cobb.
one? Yeah, you're right.
Isn't Bill Cobb experimenting with voodoo?
I think you're right.
Yeah. So voodoo, I tell you, voodoo in sequels. I mean, it's obviously like
it's a thing.
A well-worn plot device
right.
to extend a movie franchise beyond its
beyond
lifespan.
where it should go.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
So but it also made me think that given what else is going on in cinema, bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Given what else is going on in early 90s cinema, because it's a 50-50 split, whether one kind of sequel is about to eclipse the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think this seems like, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll do other years and we'll figure it out. But we'll do other years. We'll do other movies in this era.
Right.
But it seems to me that like one feels new and vibrant. One kind of sequels feels new and vibrant and interesting, and the other feels like it belongs to
the trash heap.
One seems to be a smarter idea of how to do a sequel than the other, shall I say?
All right.
Neither side is without value.
Okay.
I think.
Meaning, The 2-movie split, or just between the relevant movies?
No, I basically.
Sorry, I kind of mangled that. What I mean is,
No.
you found that there's value even in the bottom half of your list.
Yeah, I realize I'm not particularly against the idea of a cash grab sequel.
Right. Okay. That's okay.
Like, I know it's lazy and unnecessary, but I also kind of don't. Sometimes I prefer it to more sort of
To stand on its legs as it is,
yeah,
declaring boldly what it is.
yeah, exactly. I think that's it. I
Yeah.
think I miss that kind of transparency.
Right.
I don't think sequels that they endlessly rebrand themselves to seem like, given a recent conversation about requels.
I was just gonna say that's what comes to my mind when.
Yeah, it's like this is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
Even when you hear Weekend at Bernie's 2, you sort of, well, I would say you know what you're getting into. I really didn't know what I was getting into. And I just still don't think I've recovered.
By the way,
Scrap all that.
By the way,
cut that out.
I had to buy that movie.
Fucking, and it was not cheap.
No. Not only that, I'm such a fucking masochist. I had 2 choices, and I think one.
No, don't tell me you bought the HD version.
I did.
Oh, Mike! What do you think is going to be gained from watching Weekend at Bernie's 2 in HD?
I just thought, well, I can't accept standard definition, can I? As a movie lover?
They didn't have HD in 1993.
So, yeah, I paid $15.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, well, I had sympathy for you. I now have no sympathy for you. You did that to yourself, sir.
I think
Aside
you're right.
from the fact that I couldn't tell for about a minute that we were in a cartoon at the beginning of it, SD makes no difference.
Okay.
It was like a minute where I was like, oh, God. It's like, I don't watch a lot of standard definition movies. It all looks pretty grainy to me. Oh, it's a cartoon. Okay.
That's great. All right. It's all my own fault then.
Well, yeah.
And yet I still blame you.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a cruel thing to do to another human being.
You were bullish on
particularly-
the 1993 sequels. You really wanted to go here.
I did, yeah. Well, it's unfinished business. And I don't know, we've been doing so many big series.
Yeah.
I want to do something with fewer films that was more focused.
That I like, yeah.
But also gives you more kind of variety at the same time.
That's the one thing I love about the single sequels.
It's a great, well, it's
You know?
your plan. I mean, it's your design. So once again, don't blame me for something you did off your own back.
That's true. Nobody to blame but myself.
That's correct.
Well,
If it's any consolation, this made me so happy
me too.
tackling this set of movies.
I was delighted.
So happy, and I didn't have to watch another Stakeout,
Yes. Right.
which was a real bonus. But I could, happily talk about it.
Yes.
So it's win-win.
Yeah, I get you.
It's
I
the
mean-
film critic's dream. I can shit on a movie without having
Without
to watch
having
it.
had to watch it. We did it in somewhere under a year, or maybe just over.
It was very early on
yeah.
we did it, yeah. And
All right, so maybe it's been a year and a half.
right.
But I still feel qualified to put it where I put it in my ranking.
But at least we know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At least we've done the survey. We know we were right.
Right. So
but it's also, I mean, I don't know if it has. Well, we're different ages, and you know that comes out when we do different
yeah,
movie series. But for me, I mean, this is like, speaking of rite de passage. These are. Haven't seen all these movies until now, but 3 out of the 4 are real kind of nostalgia beacons for me.
mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about, we can talk about that specifically for each movie when
Sure.
we do it. But I just want to flag I think that's part of why I have such a glow about doing these movies. Why they didn't bother me so much is because it brought me back to a happy time.
It really did bring me back to a time and place in my life.
Yeah.
What
But,
movies were like specifically at this time?
Yeah. Oh, very specific.
Yeah.
Very specific. And it's really interesting how I react to them now versus then, but also how I react similarly now to how I did then.
Right.
Like, both, to me, both is gives me a good sense of then and now.
Yeah. Because I'll save it, but
Yeah.
I mean, so
These movies mean a lot to me. As
Okay.
What like each of them, apart from the one I had not seen, but the one I had not seen will go on to mean a lot to me. if only because I now own it.
Yeah,
I need to watch
right.
it again to get my money's worth.
Exactly. At least once a year, I have to go to what I've bought and say, "Oh, I got to make it worth it." Maybe I gotta sit through that for another hour and 26 minutes or whatever it is.
And maybe we talk about this when we do the episode. But I'm also fascinated as to why you can't rent Weekend at Bernie's too.
Yeah, right.
Whether that is purposeful thinking that no one's gonna like, if someone has to see it, you have to buy it.
You have to want it.
Yeah, you have to. That's it. There is no casual Weekend at Bernie's viewer available in the world of streaming.
So, that leads us to, of course, our ranking and declaring.
That's right.
Easy. Talk to me about your where do you sit? Tell me your feelings.
Okay.
Let me put the box of tissues out for you. I am your therapist. Go.
Well, I was greatly aroused by Weekend at Bernie's too, but
I'm going to stop you there. I don't think we should see each other anymore. I'll refer you to somebody nice.
Okay, thank you. Generally, so ranking and declaration generally easy.
Yeah.
But
for me too.
But I got stuck between two of the films. In both sections. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So that there was a generally easy, not one of our harder, not one of our more difficult ranking episodes, but two of the movies could have switched places.
On both ends, you're saying though.
On both ends, yeah.
Wow.
Between good and bad, and between.
So 2 could have been 1, and 4 could have been 3.
No.
Oh.
Not in ranking terms. No, ranking was clear for 3 out of the for 2 of the movies, and then another 2 of the movies could have swapped places.
Okay.
And then.
Wow.
For good or bad, one of the movies I am still trying to figure out what I do with.
Right. Like right in this moment.
Yeah.
Still trying to figure out.
Yeah, I have a big decision to make.
All right.
I'm pretty settled, but I don't know. It's a big swing. to use the parlance of our podcast.
Yes.
It's a big swing.
Well, I mean, I think we should start.
I agree.
Where do you sit? Number 1 Or what movie sits number one in your ranking?
Number one on my ranking is
I'm so curious.
Wayne's World 2. Wayne's World 2.
Oh!
Party Time 2. Excellent 2.
Wow.
Diddly diddly 2. Diddly diddly 2. Diddly diddly 2.
I did not expect that.
From me or because of how you feel?
I think from you, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Well, all I have to say about that decision is
Easy?
it was easy
this...
because I think this movie outclasses and outperforms the other movies on this list. So in ranking terms, that's really all I need to say. Whatever category you look at it in, as a 1993 movie, as a comedy, as a spoof movie, a sketch movie, however you want to, however you want to base the bird, this movie has the other movies on the list
Oh, I don't think so.
beat. Okay, go for it.
But it's close.
Then our Wayne's World 2 episode is going to be interesting.
Yeah. I went on a journey with Wayne's World 2 because maybe I'll save that for the episode. I'll save it. But top of my list is Hot Shots.
Part 2.
Part 2.
You did watch 2.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good.
Yes, the Hot Shots sequel. And because of our love, Tom, our love of Stallone, and the spot on parodies of Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Rambo 3.
I have no issue with anything you're saying on that matter.
I thought you'd be all over it.
That's
why I'm surprised. I thought that would catapult that movie.
But it's not actually Stallone. I don't have that much of a Stallone blind spot. If he's not actually involved, it's just people pretending to be him or be in his movies. That's not the same as it being a Stallone movie.
All right, fine. But Krenna's in the movie.
But this movie comes about as close as you get to it being a Stallone movie without Stallone, yeah.
And I have to say, I mean, I remember really liking the Hot Shots movies when they came out, but they were not ones that I ended up buying and watching over and over and over again. Not like the Naked Guns.
Mm-hmm.
I had not seen this movie in a long time.
Identical.
Yeah.
My experience is identical to yours. It seemed like it was far more it seemed far more disposable at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the sequel.
Okay. But I was just delighted by that movie.
Oh, good.
Delighted.
Great.
Which leads me to, I think I kind of let the cat out of the bag already because I said that they were very close.
Yeah.
That Wayne's World 2 is second on my list.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'll meet you in the middle and say Hot Shots Part 2 is second on my list.
All right. So this was what I was wondering the most about. I figured at the top of our lists were going to have the same two movies. I really did think that they would be in the same order, too. But there was that 1% of me that thought, But I thought Hot Shots would be at the top of yours as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer that it's going to be above the other two.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's just these two movies, they're smarter and more successful at what they're doing.
Yeah. Top to bottom.
If you're just comparing it to those two movies, you don't even have to think about that. But yeah, I made the leap that I think there's a lot of overlap between them in terms of the kind of movie they are.
Right.
So it was easy for me to see to kind of prefer the project of one to the other and the success rate. And there was no doubt in my mind that Wayne's World 2.
That's funny you say that because
those highs.
I remember being, I don't know that disappointed is the right word when I first saw that movie.
It's not the right word.
In
no.
theaters.
That's not the right word.
But I remember being kind of underwhelmed by the
You're going
sequel
to be disappointed in me
the first time I saw
when
it
we talk about it.
in theaters in 1993. And
Interesting.
therefore...
Well, my experience could not be more different.
Well, yeah, I mean, therefore, it was a movie that I did not have a lot of repeat viewing on, and I had not seen it in a long time. And about a half hour into it, I was thinking, this is great. What was my problem? For me, I think the second act, although there's just funny shit throughout it, the second act sort of lingers on for a while.
Okay, let's talk about that. Not now, but
yeah, we will, but
because I'd be giving too much away.
All right.
If I answered that particular comment.
All
right. So yeah, you're. Am I next up?
I think so.
Should we flip reverse it and you want to take the lead now?
Well, I took the lead on 2.
Okay. Well, this is interesting. This is where this is where I feel.
Now, if I recall, how did you declare on Another Stakeout originally?
Bad.
I think we both said bad, right?
We both said bad, yeah.
Okay.
Put it at the bottom of that.
But for some reason,
rather small list that we created.
For some reason,
we had some format problems in the early days of this podcast, guys.
Right.
We've solved many of those now.
For some reason, I feel as though I'm remembering you not disliking it quite as much as I did.
That's a blatant falsehood, to quote Michael Corleone in Godfather Part 2.
Okay, fine.
At the Senate hearing.
All right.
No. Literally, I looked back through my notes, and really my only positive was Dennis Farina eating an ice cream sandwich.
Yeah.
That was the only
You're
moment
right.
of joy I had in the entire movie.
You and I both locked onto that one.
Yeah. But what's interesting about ranking this and Weekend at Bernie's 2 against each other is, what do you do with movies that essentially don't work?
Yes.
Right. Don't work and shouldn't exist, right? Both of them.
Well, they both don't work. They both shouldn't exist. You, based on our many Halloween 3 conversations,
yeah,
I had a poor reaction to seeing Halloween 3 for our 1982 single sequels out of context of other Halloween movies and all of that because of Dr. Daniel Chalice. What a piece of shit he was.
Yeah.
And so I had ranked that, I believe, last in the 1982, and then I had a complete change of heart when we did the Halloween series. But I had similar vibes for these two movies because Andrew McCarthy's character, likewise, piece of shit. But does it make the movie less enjoyable is what I started asking myself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's an important point, and that will lead to a good discussion. I'm probably talking a bit more superficially about, what do I value in movies that should never have been made?
Right, and it's weird because they're both
sequels that should never have been made. Like how do you apply? You just accept that they exist.
Yes.
So what do you value in them, given that you've got over the problem of, well, none of this should exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, I think about how I felt about watching both movies, and Weekend at Bernie's 2 is a remarkable movie. The reasons why it's remarkable we'll go into later, but it is a remarkable movie, and as a spectatorial experience, it is unique and startling.
Yes.
And I simply, nothing in my notes or nothing that I remember about seeing Another Stakeout makes me think that I had anything close to that with Another Stakeout.
So the thing that's interesting to me, though, is in principle, I'm agreeing with you completely. But there's another part of this in the sense of production value. They're both terrible movies, but one looks better and is probably better made.
But it's playing it so safe.
Right.
It kind of makes it more worthless.
Right.
But, you know, this is actually not a huge dilemma for me. Next on my list is Weekend at Bernie's.
Okay. I admit that you know, we've talked about this before. It's sort of, what do you value? And when it comes to, like we said, two movies that shouldn't be made.
I had a time watching this movie.
Yeah.
A time.
But I think...
I'm not putting any adjectives in here yet, but I'm going to just... like, and I can't remember anything about Another Stakeout except it just felt like a formality. I just felt like I needed to get through it. I really didn't feel that with Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Mm-hmm.
That I just needed to get through it. And that everything was played so, you know, I didn't feel anything was played close to the chest. I didn't. This is not. I mean, first of all, it's uncharted territory. Like, no one makes a sequel to this kind of movie ever,
right?
Because there is literally nothing you can do with the premise.
Why would you?
There's literally nothing you can do. And yet the choices they make within that kind of nihilistic range of there is no option here is something to behold. And
yes. So
it's got to rank higher just because Another Stakeout is just so meh in so many areas, and Weekend at Bernie's really isn't.
So that's the funny thing, because sitting down to watch Weekend at Bernie's 2 and being in the neighborhood of 15 minutes into it, having watched the cartoon and see like that voodoo
that begins the movie.
That's going,
it's not even the title sequence. It's the first scene of the movie. Right? It's an important distinction before you see this movie.
Right. And, you know, seeing that voodoo is going to be a part of it, I almost immediately dismissed it. And in my mind, I was saying...
See, that's when it gets interesting.
Right. In my mind, I had already decided, all right, okay, fine. So Another Stakeout is ranked higher, and I feel safe watching the rest of this movie. I already know what I'm going to do. And then about 3/4 of the way through the movie, I start thinking, wait a second, like, pump the brakes, because this movie is fucking insane.
The last act of this movie is balls to the wall nonsense.
So, yes, in the terms of like what you appreciate, you know, I knew the other movie was technically a better made movie.
Right.
It has one of my favorite all-time actors in Richard Dreyfuss.
Right. Right.
And I never in 100 years thought I would put Weekend at Bernie's 2 above Another Stakeout. And when Weekend at Bernie's 2 finished, I said, well, kudos to you, Weekend at Bernie's 2, because you have changed my mind.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look outside the movie, I mean, Weekend at Bernie's 2 is on a number of worst sequels of all time lists. Mm-hmm. So even if you absorb any of that, and I'm sure I did, going into Weekend at Bernie's 2, you're ready to, you know, you're ready to dismiss out of hand. And if you're going in with that perspective, what you see is a delight.
Yes.
Because not only is it not what you expected, you know everyone else is wrong, and they're not getting something from this movie that you're getting. If they're complaining about sitting down and watching this film,
Yeah.
then you have missed something essential. You're watching this wrong, to quote you from the other podcast.
Yes, right.
It's just, yeah. And when just now when you were talking, I was trying to remember in my mind, when things start to go insane in Weekend at Bernie's 2, what's happening in Another Stakeout? It's not something very interesting.
Yeah, right.
It's like they're arguing about who stands where in a gunfight or something not good.
Yes.
So I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I'm settled on that.
All right.
So we both. So is that your final decision?
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
Weekend
great.
at Bernie's 2, followed by Bottom of the Barrel, Another Stakeout.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's
Let's talk good, bad.
Let's talk about.
The top of probably both our lists are givens, no?
I don't think Wayne's World 2 is a good film.
And
It's a great film.
God damn it. You sucked me in.
Actually, I don't think it's a great film. It's one of the first great works of film postmodernism. There, I said it. It's out there.
Wow.
I was blown away seeing it a few days ago, as I was when I first saw it in 1993. I like what it does with the idea of film postmodernism, being able to combine high and low culture, classic and contemporary media, interplay of signs and signifiers, doing that in between Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. So Mike Myers understands what's going on, what's happening in the zeitgeist of cinema. And yet for him to be able to articulate it in entirely his own way, that is completely the equal of what happens a year later in Pulp Fiction in a totally idiosyncratic way. And this movie as a comedy, it's one of the most successful film comedies I've ever seen.
Wow.
I think there are 2 or 3 scenes in this movie that are the perfect synthesis of how to do cinematic comedy. And I also think the comedic through line in this movie is pretty much flawless. I mean, it's...
Describe that more for me. What do you mean by comedic through line?
I mean the fact that, like, there's
you're not
no
talking about the narrative.
There's no throwaway gags in the movie. There's never
Okay.
a moment where the flow of comedy feels like it's off. We have runners that we go back to the Sports Illustrated football phone, to Rip Taylor. We have
the shit with the chickens and the watermelons and
well, that's it. Like, that's
know.
a self-referential version of that, but at the same time, there's a gag that gets called back at the very end that you don't see coming.
Mm-hmm.
So it works on multiple levels, and the way that this movie bounces back and forth between visual and verbal comedy, I realize seeing it on this viewing, this is the reason that I adore Mike Myers and that I think he's a genius. It's this movie.
Wow.
That make and pretty much everything since talked me out of that, although I do enjoy a lot of it. But I can just see I can see him. I don't know. I can just see the way he absorbs what's going on historically around him with media.
Yeah.
But also makes it his own and makes it a studio movie and a franchise movie and like an SNL movie as well. Like
Sure.
And there's no, like, that's weirdly even more impressive to me than what Tarantino and Rodriguez are doing at the time, because they're doing it in independent cinema.
Sure.
Where you expect more of that, but I just they don't.
He does thread a needle.
The high standard of comedy that Mike Myers brings, and for some reason, and I may be wrong about this, and it may be an illusion, but it feels like Wayne's World 2 is where it all clicks for me. where everything that is great about Mike Myers just clicks in one, in one single movie.
Well, fucking A. I was going to say it's a good movie.
Well, at least we're not gonna Rise of the Machines this, know, and we have got some common ground.
We do. And I'm saying the same for Hot Shots Part 2. Good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I'm gonna Larry David it a bit. Yeah, it's good. I think the writing and direction is solid.
Yeah.
I mean, there are hits and misses, but it evens out overall. But what puts it over for me and why I'm certain it's a good movie and why I don't second guess myself is the performances.
Yes.
I think there are 2 performances in this movie that are as good as any in this genre.
All right.
At least.
Lloyd Bridges is one of them?
Possibly.
All right.
Yeah, of course. I think every time Tug Benson opens his mouth, something magical comes out.
Something great happens.
And it also, like, having just seen Wayne's World 2, it reminded me of, like, when comedy works, it's holistic.
Yeah.
Right? It's not one kind of gag, and whenever Tug Benson is on screen, it's character humor, visual humor, verbal humor.
Yes,
it's
right.
all
it's
happening
all
at
of it.
once.
Yeah.
In the vessel of this just like powerhouse of a comedic actor. It's not quite his swan song because of Mickey Mandelbaum and Seinfeld,
right.
But it's one of the last times you would see this kind of greatness from him.
Right.
So it's extra special, but it's not just him. There's other performances in this movie that are beyond words kind of quality.
Well, and there was some stuff. I mean, I'm going to save it, but
yeah,
there was some stuff in this movie referentially that also took it above Wayne's World 2 for me.
Oh,
that I just adored.
Yeah.
Commenting on maleness while spoofing Rambo movies. Great. Sublime. Fucking loved it.
It's a good movie.
So, now this brings us.
Here we go.
We've already declared Another Stakeout as a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, sir, is Weekend...
And you're not flinching on that.
No.
No, I'm not either.
No. Yeah. But
these 3 movies have reaffirmed what I already thought about Another Stakeout.
Mm-hmm. But the question is
Mike.
Weekend at Bernie's 2 a good movie?
I think we've talked before on this podcast, both here and on the watch-alongs, about how frustrating it is when we do terrible movies, like how close to the line we get of so bad it's good, but never quite getting there.
Right.
I mean, it's happened once or twice,
yeah.
But like 99% of the time, it's like I can't do it. I can't commit to saying it's so bad it's good. Something something pulls me back from the brink.
Yes.
I mean, we got really close with Cruel Jaws. But the last act of that movie is
too bad to be.
Well, the last act, the last act of that movie is a snore fest. Right?
Compared to the last act of this movie.
Well, this is it. This is where the dilemma comes in. Trolls 2, and it's like, I can see they're trying too hard for comedy at times. Like, I don't want to see them trying so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's nitpicky, but when you're going to go as far as saying this abjectly terrible movie is good, you've got to be 100%. Like,
and that's the thing about this movie is the tone of it. Where the movie sits.
It's so sublimely awful.
Yes.
Mike, it's like, it's transcendently awful. with seemingly no awareness of how terrible it is.
Right.
It's
The movie.
I'm right there. I am literally. It's photo finish time. I'm just, you know, it's
So
because it's like, I think I'm gonna say good. You know, a parenthesis, so bad it's
right.
good. And like, I think the only other movie I've done this with on the podcast is Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use some of the same reasoning, which is that, like, overall, it's terrible enough to be so bad it's good. And there's a couple of things I actually kind of quite like about it. Unironically.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like John Glover, some of the scenes with Alfred. But with this movie, I have pretty much the same feeling where I'm like, I'm certain that the overwhelming majority of this movie is so bad it's good. And I like some of the performances, and there's a few solid gags in there.
Right.
So how could I, like, everything about this movie is telling me it's good for those reasons. And you know what? I think it might be a better bad movie than Batman and Robin, because Batman and Robin has some semblance of art. This is artless.
Right. Right.
This has no pretension of art.
There's something about this movie in which I suppose I should ask you, because, I mean, you haven't seen fucking Stakeout, so had you seen the first Weekend at Bernie's?
I think I have.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you anything about it, and I'm scared to watch it now, frankly.
I remember loving that movie and
so
thinking it's hysterical.
I gotta say, one of the reasons why I had such a visceral reaction to Weekend at Bernie's 2 is everything they do with dead bodies that they think is comedic,
right,
horrifies the shit out of me. I don't know if I could rewatch another whole movie that is just so callous and inhumane
and just off,
viscerally makes me want to jump out of my body.
There are things that they do with this body that turn your two protagonists into complete and total psychopaths.
Yeah,
the only way you can think about them.
There was moments in the movie where I said, you know what? Texas Chainsaw, Silence of the Lambs, American Psycho, got nothing on this movie.
Exactly.
There is nothing as horrific in any of those movies as happens here.
This movie's director seems to think he is bringing everything to bear that was great about the first movie. But when you add multiple trips to the morgue, voodoo,
yes,
a plane ride with a body stuffed into a suitcase,
and only then does it smell.
Yes. Which is,
I like that they draw the line there. Anyway, we may be getting too deep into
we
this.
I think we probably are. So anyway,
but it's a traumatic experience, and we need some catharsis.
Like you, even up until when the movie was over, I thought, oh man, did I go on a trip? But there's no way I can call it a good movie. And then I had to sit with that for a few hours.
Yeah.
And
welcome to my world.
I really do think it's the best example we've had so far of so bad it is good.
Yeah.
And I'm calling it a good movie.
Okay.
I think it deserves it.
Who knew that the controversy here would be over whether Wayne's World is better than Hot Shots? In a list that includes Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Yeah.
This is just like, yeah, I'm obviously
I'm surprised.
I agree.
I thought I was going to be alone on that. So now I'm surprised twice. But I'm so pleasantly surprised. What a journey.
I kept, I'm not even joking. I said in my own head to myself on a mantra-like loop, this is something to behold. This is something to behold.
Yeah.
This is something to, as I, like, it was, and it kept surprising me. I guess that's part of the, like, you know, when you're like an hour into Cruel Jaws, it's like, well, this movie can't get any worse. It can get boring, but it can't get worse.
Yeah.
Weekend at Bernie's 2 doesn't roll that way.
Never.
It gets it start with voodoo, and we go and we descend from there.
Right.
We start with voodoo, and that's where the movie
And there's
goes.
there's a Curly's Gold aspect to it as well.
Yeah, and you don't have to suffer through Billy Crystal and his fame predator behavior. Yeah.
All right.
Hey, let's latch on to someone who's more talented than I am and ride their carcass through a couple of movies.
Wow.
Sorry. That's just
Wow.
tell you. You look at Billy Crystal's career. He's like he latches on to someone who's more famous, more talented than him, and he rides that carcass for at least a movie, sometimes two. Which is not to say he's without talent or that he's not famous, but
Right.
that's how his career has worked. He's a non-sexual predator, as far as we know. Got to put an asterisk on everything these days.
Fucking fuck. You see him
'Cause
and
we
Tiffany
just don't
Haddish, and you think Predator.
Tiffany Haddish, the last in a long line. Jack Palance is the first.
Right. All right.
He's like, I could ride this guy's renaissance to fame and fortune.
Fuck.
Okay.
All right. Well, we did it.
We did.
It's time to move on.
We ruined culture.
There you go.
We have essentially said there is no more. Well, speak of postmodernism, we have effectively erased the boundary between high and low culture by saying Weekend at Bernie's 2 is good.
I know. If there's anybody that's seen that movie, we should get letters. Like, what the fuck are you thinking, letters?
There's a reason you have to pay a minimum of $8 for the privilege of seeing this movie. And it is revealed upon watching it. That's like 2 coffees, guys. You can have 2 coffees, or you can go watch
Right,
Weekend at Bernie's
right.
2. I heartily, even as a caffeine lover, I heartily recommend the latter.
Yep. Don't forget, I think I paid $15. I'll watch it again at some point.
Did you feel like it was an unusually sharp image for a movie made in 1993?
At one point, I thought this surely looks better than the standard.
Well, I mean, I can speak to that immediately. Well, you have all those, like the minimum 30 minutes of footage of the Virgin Islands.
Mm-hmm.
That probably looks pretty good in HD.
Yeah. Indeed it does. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a tourist movie as well, guys.
Yeah.
It's a promotional movie for the Virgin Islands,
Mm-hmm.
just on top of everything else.
On top of
that it
everything
is.
else. All right, you're going to have to tell us your rankings. What do you think? Are these movies good or bad? Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Send us an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. Give them a goodbye, Tom.
Parasailing? Bernie was parasailing?
hung upside down by his foot.
That line is misleading because it implies that he had some choice
Right.
in the matter.
All right, everyone, stay tuned. Coming up next, Wayne's World 2. Until next time.
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe two craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They'll try new beers, they'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.
Does the coronavirus have you feeling oogie? Have you been sitting on your couch for weeks? Nay, have you been sitting on there for months? Well, it's time for you to get back in shape. Check out 2AT Fitness. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Facebook. 2AT Fitness was started by Tina Bernard. She is ready and raring to go to help you get back into the shape you want to get into. They've got all kinds of classes. They've got outdoor in-person classes. They've got online classes if that's what you prefer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get back in shape. You're going to find a variety of exercises. You're going to have strength training, cardio, weightlifting, even fun 5-minute burnouts that will push you to your limits. So get off the couch, get into shape. Go ahead and check out 2AT Fitness. Tina Bernard has got you for all your needs. I know her personally. She's fantastic. You're not going to meet a better person to help you become the new you. Check it out.